Hello, and today we would like to present the refrigerant system on board Greek Pride. It's right here. We have our Gunt 915.01. We'll start off by naming all the big components, and then we will show you the smaller components later. We start at the compressor. This is what compresses the refrigerant. It's the component where we add energy to the system. Right after the compressor, we have the condenser. This is where we do a phase change from a gas in the compressor to a liquid after the condenser. Over here, we have our refrigerant receiver. This is where we store our refrigerant when the system is not in use. And up here, we have our choke system, which is where we do make the pressure difference that will help cool, that actually does the cooling of the liquid, of the refrigerant. After the choke, we have our evaporator, where we transfer the the heat energy from the room to the refrigerant and take it back to the compressor. These were the four main components. Our system is split up into two parts. We have the bottom part here and the top part over here. The parts are separated by four isolation valves, two over here and two over here. We also have different places for temperature sensing and pressure indicators. We have some temperature indicators at the evaporator and around the compressor and the condenser. The same goes for pressure. Also for controlling the system, we have different solenoid valves. Down over here we have two solenoid valves going to the receiver. These were and also a bypass solenoid valve. Up at the top part for the choke valves, we have two different methods. We start at the bottom one, which is a max load choke valve. Goes straight into the capillary tube and into the evaporator. We can also have some temperature control on the system instead, where we use the V5 control valve, solenoid valve, up into a expansion valve, which then controls the pressure at a set limit that we can set in the system.
Now we'll go through the startup procedure. We will start by checking the system for leaks, and that we will just touch the lines, and everywhere there is a connection we have to check for some leaks and make sure everything is tight. Afterwards we will open the manually valves, and afterwards we can open for valve number 1 and valve number 2 to make sure the refrigerant fills up the rest of the system. And then afterwards we will go for valve 5 to make the temperature controlled choke valve. Here we will set it to 10 degrees. Afterwards we will start up the condensator and the evaporator. Now that when those are running, we can now make sure everything is open and ready to start the compressor. So we can start the compressor. And now we can listen that the compressor has started, and we can check again for any leaks, and if any leaks is shown, we will have to stop the system and make sure it's leak proof. Yes. And to make sure the system is running fine, we can see that the pressures shall be there should be a difference in pressure over the compressor, and also in the application on the computer we can see the temperature is different from each other, from the positive pressure side to the negative pressure side. Yes. Now we can see that valve number 5 have been shut off, and therefore no more refrigerant is flowing through the system. This means that we have reached the lowest point of this cooling box, and now we could also hear that the compressor stopped, and that means we have the low pressure side here is around 1.15 bars, because the compressor is not happy about if it goes below 1 bar. And the compressor will start again when this side reaches around 1.8 bar, and this valve will open if the temperature in this room will go up to 13 degrees. Yes. Now we will go through the shutdown procedure and pump down. First of all, in the pump down, we will empty the system for refrigerant, and that we will do by closing. First of all, close valve number 2. Then we will wait for the system to get all the refrigerant into the receiver, or as much as we can. And we will close valve number 1 when the compressor stops, and therefore this line goes down to 1.15 bars. Then we have collected as much as possible. So now we will just wait a little moment. And now we have collected as much as possible in this receiver. So now we can shut off the temperature control in the box, and close the valve for the different and shut off the condensator and the evaporator, and afterwards we can shut off the compressor. And lastly, we can close the valves. And now we have shut off the system.